Hi, I'm Wendy Yi, and welcome to a rapid fire roundup. Now, today I'm going to be discussing very briefly some games that I've played recently. Many of these are just kind of new to the hobby, but then I also have a couple in here that are new to me. So there's some older games, but I enjoyed playing them, so I thought I'd throw them in just for fun. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and rank from lowest to highest on this list. So first up is Roller Coaster Rush, and I gave it a 2. It's super broken. I mean, the auction is fine, but when I was playing marbles and they were rolling down my ramp, they literally kept hopping off. And so there was nothing I could do if mid-ramp, like it literally doesn't work. So I gave it a 2. Sorry. Maybe we can find a way to make this better, but I know there's already been multiple iterations of this game. So, meh. So anyways, Roller Coaster Rush, 2. Next on my list is Hooky. Thematically, it's kind of cute. You're trying to figure out which letters or kids are skipping school. But oh my goodness, this is so hard. Like really, really hard. I'm already not a big Quirtle person. Like I'm not that good at like coming up with words that have to fit with certain, come up with 5-letter words and try to figure out the deduction of it. But then you're giving me like 4 or 5 of these that I have to do at the same time while other people are also going through their own mind puzzles to ask words. And so it is too much. It's too much for me. I'm just not smart enough for this game, so I gave it a 4. So Hooky, 4. Now, Broom Service, the card game, is one that is new to me. I've historically hated Broom Service because I don't necessarily love the card play, and then the card play is very dependent on the game. So it's funny because this is just the card play. It is literally hey, I play a blue fairy, then everybody else that has a blue fairy, they decide if they're going to play it in order. If I choose to be brave and then someone else chooses to be brave after me, I get absolutely nothing. If I choose basic and someone else is brave after me, then I just get my basic stuff. But if I happen to choose brave and nobody else after me chooses it, then I get something really big and awesome. So it's the card play, I feel like, is better because it has less dependence on timing. So in the regular Broom Service game, you're trying to move and then deliver, and you're trying to get to all these special things, and it has to be in order. Whereas the card game version is just very like basic play, whatever the order is. When you complete stuff, you get things. It is less dependent on the timing. So in that way, I like it more. But also, it is a much lighter, barely there game. And so I feel like I like it less. So basically, I probably like it similarly, but maybe it's a little bit easier and less frustrating. So there you go. Broom Service, the card game. I gave it a 5. Next up is Seas of Havoc, and this I gave a 6. It wasn't bad. I don't typically like games where you're moving around on boards trying to fight each other, but I think that the mix between the resource management and the deck building and stuff, I found it interesting. I think my biggest struggle with this was that as you are drawing cards from your deck, those cards may never lead you to being able to move properly, the right direction, the right way, the right amount, to then be able to attack someone. And then even if you can move, sometimes you can't attack them because they move away. So I wish that there was a little bit better card play with that, with the deck building. But one thing I do really appreciate, I do really like that as I attack you, you don't suffer that much. Like you get a little bit of bad stuff in your deck, but it's not like a big deal. It's just something minor. It's something you can get rid of on the next shuffle. Obviously, if everybody's picking on one person, it's gonna be a bigger deal than if everybody hits each other a few times each. It's not bad. So I don't mind that. Seas of Havoc, I gave it a 6. Scribble Gum is next on my list, and this is a 6.5, which this is a kids game. It's very much a kids game, and so therefore 6 is our approved rating for kid games. This is a little roll and write, and I think for an introductory roll and write game, I think that this is good. You're just connecting little dot-to-dot paths. You're collecting some resources, and then you're kind of building up columns and stuff. I do know my daughter was a little bit confused the first time that we played. She didn't fully understand the strategy, but she's played it a couple times more, and she enjoys it more. So 6.5 for Scribble Gum. Next is Keep the Heroes Out. This is another 6.5. I keep giving these little half points because this one I think is adorable. I think the art is great. I think that thematically the characters really tie in. Like I played the slimes, and when the slimes get hit, they split in half, and so you get another slime back on the board. Like, there's a lot of really good thematic touches. It's very cute. The humans that are coming in, you're trying to keep them from getting down to the big bad treasure. So they collect these little treasures in between, and they get distracted. And as they're distracted, you can come in and you can murder them and kill them and stuff. It's great. So I think that this thematically is very cool. It definitely overstays its welcome, though. I feel like it was much longer than I wanted it to be. For me, for the co-op games, I want them to be a little bit quicker, punchier, and a little bit more interesting going on instead of just kind of waiting. Hey, I can move just a couple steps. I can do just a couple things on my turn, then bad stuff happens. I just wanted it shorter for what it was. So keep the heroes out. I gave a 6.5. Next up is Clinic Deluxe. This I gave a 7.5. I think that thematically it ties in really well as I enjoy a lot of the mechanisms going on. So it is an efficiency puzzle. You're building this hospital, and then you have to make sure that all of the rooms are associated in the proper way. It's like a 3-step room to be able to make your clinic run and work. And then you want it to be as efficient as possible to get people from the outside of the building into the inside of the building, into the clinic to get treated. You have to have the proper level doctors for the proper level of intensive care that people need. And so I just think that there's some really cool things that you're balancing and you're doing. I do feel like I will never play with a car rules. So there's cars on the outside, and as you add more people, you have to add more cars because you need spots in your parking lot for them, right? It logically makes sense. And yet for some reason this game, the cars will never move. So you just have to leave them there until someone leaves. Like if someone gets treated, then their car moves. But the doctors always stay. It doesn't make sense because in all real logic, if you have a construction site, you're like, hey, I know this is your assigned parking place. I'm just going to change your your assigned parking place, doctor. You can now park somewhere else. So that's all. Thematically, it doesn't make sense why that's super tight, and I find that it takes away from the enjoyment of the game, so I'd rather play without it. So that is Clinic Deluxe. I gave a 7.5. Planet Unknown is next. I give this an 8. It's a polyomino game, and I just tend to really like polyomino games. I enjoy fitting those pieces together. I think it's clever the way that the little Lazy Susan works, so that depending on what pieces I choose determines what pieces people get to choose from on their turns. In a 2-player game, you can kind of hate rotate. It's like hate draft, but hate rotate instead. You can kind of do that. I don't see it happening too often, but it could happen at those moments where you're like, ooh, I know you're going for this, and I don't want you to get more of those colors or those pieces or whatever. So I could see that happening. The other thing I really enjoy about it is I like that there are different player powers and different planets, so combining those together I think is very cool. And I haven't been able to play this much, so it's definitely one I want to explore more and kind of get a feel for, because I know people love this even more than I do, and so I'm just curious what else there is to see and to grow. I mean, you've got your little engine building decisions as you're moving up on tracks. I mean, textbook-wise, this should be one of my favorite games of all time because it has the polyominoes, it has the tracks, it has engine building. It should be. So it's not quite that 8.5 for me, but I can definitely see it maybe moving up in the future the more I play it. We'll see if I get to it. So that is Planet Unknown. Potato Man is new to me, not new to the hobby. This came out, I think, in 2013, so it's been a minute. But it is new to me, and it's something that was very exciting. Chris and I played a few different trick-taking games recently, and this one is very clever, and it's unique because as you are playing on a round, you're not following suit, but instead you have to play a unique suit. And so if you can't play a unique suit, suddenly the round ends, like right there and there. Round ends, we're done. We shuffle up, we deal a new hand, and we continue forward. And so you're holding on to these cards, trying to figure out how to play them and in what order to play them, because the lower suits that have more low-numbered cards are worth more if you win a trick with them. Whereas the higher suits that you have a lot of really high numbers, they're easy to win those tricks, but you only get 1 point from them. So it's a fun balance between those highs and those lows, and what tricks you're going to win, what suits you're going to win. Is someone going to run out of a suit soon because you have a lot of a certain color, so they don't have that? It's very interesting. I do prefer it at a higher player count than in 2. It's playable at 2, but it definitely feels much more head-to-head, and it feels like it's a little bit harder to catch up if you just get a bad hand. There's that, but I definitely give it an 8 because I think it's a good, solid game, and it's one I want to play some more, so I think it's super clever. So Potato Man, 8. Finally on my list, the last one is Expeditions. This is one that I give an 8. It almost made an 8.5. I do have a couple little issues with it. I feel like there's so many keywords, and I think those keywords are supposed to tie into Scythe, but I'm not a Scythe player, and so I don't really understand why hearts are quests, and the way you resolve quests is by complete. There's certain words for that. Like, it's just, there's a lot of keywords, and so the way you have a card, like the type of card you have, and the way you complete that card for an objective purpose, the words don't always connect. They don't always go together for me. So that's confusing, and I think that could have been cleaned up. The other thing is I played it at 5, and it was terrible. We didn't even finish the game after like 2.5 hours because, oh my goodness, I would never play it at 5. Everything just gets tighter because the board doesn't expand. It doesn't change between a 2-player game and a 5-player game. And so you just run out of stuff. And I could be working on the same thing that someone else is working on, and then suddenly, like, they've completed that objective. Cool. I'm so close to completing it, and there's nothing left on the board. I can't do it. So I don't like that. I'd rather play it at 2 to 3. So at a 2 to 3 player count, I think this is solidly an 8. I like that there are a lot of different objectives that you're trying to complete and you're trying to work up to. And so you're just trying to get a certain amount of those stars, but then also you're trying to build an engine. So you're like, hey, let me tuck these cards, which will help me complete an objective, but also they'll help upgrade my stars that I get so that they're worth more points at the end of the game per star. Or maybe I'll tuck cards under here because they'll give me instant points now, and they build on each other. And so it's just really cool to see the way that those engines work. I think the cards are interesting that you've got cards that you play that let you do abilities, but then you have cards that you play that give you a bonus, but then you get something extra if you're able to put a worker on them. So there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. I love the exploration. I love just doing lots of different things. So Expeditions is almost an 8.5, but it is only an 8 just because, yeah, fiddly keywords, that kind of stuff. Just lack of clarity in the rulebook. So there you go. That's my rapid fire roundup for today. I'm Wendy Yi. This is the Dice Tower, and keep playing those games.